Welcome back, everybody, to the Assertive Podcast. I'm Erica,
I'm Jess.
and we are licensed professional counselors in Texas, reviewing Am I the Asshole Reddit threads to help you learn skills for communication, healthy boundary setting, and assertive interpersonal functioning. This week, we are going to be getting into entitlement. We're going to start with a post titled, Am I the Asshole for Telling My Husband to Lose the Entitled Attitude and Do Shit for Himself? Just recently, my husband was promoted to assistant manager of a warehouse. We both work upwards of 50 hours a week, and I'm a shift manager at a behavioral disorder facility. Both jobs are very hands-on and strenuous. Since his promotion, he has developed an entirely different attitude, extremely entitled, and dare I say, rude as all fuck. He is always boasting and bragging. This has been going on now for 3 weeks. Some examples are, on his day off, he wants the house to be radio silent. If our 4-year-old wants to play, he tells her to go to her bedroom because he needs peace and quiet after, quote, working so hard. If I make our daughter lunch, he will immediately say, "Where's mine?" He asks me to grab him things damn near constantly at all hours of the night. He expects nightly back rubs, but if I ask for one, he scoffs at me and says, "I worked all day." Even if I have also. He expects meals that he likes made every night, regardless if me or our daughter like them. He also now acts like he has full say over the money because he, quote, makes more. Last night was the tip of the iceberg for me. Before this, I let a lot of shit slide because it was a recent promotion and hell, he's excited. So I get it. But last night, around 11 p.m., I was in bed scrolling through my phone. He comes into the bedroom, lays down, and says, "Babe, you should go make me some ice cream. I want the chocolate drizzle on it. And oh, don't forget the cashews." Then he starts scrolling through his phone. I ignore it because I feel at this point, I'm just going to snap. He then shook my leg and said, "Did you hear me?" So I responded with, "Yeah, I did hear you. And no, go make it yourself. You were literally just out there. Your sense of fucking entitlement is way out of line. Do shit for yourself." He became offended and instantly, like fucking clockwork, said, "But I worked all fucking day." So I snapped back with, "Yeah, I did too. In fact, I worked 12 hours to your 8. Like I said, do shit for yourself." He's now saying that he is not acting entitled and that I was just taking my bad day out on him and that everything I said makes him feel unappreciated. Am I the asshole? Did I push this too far?
I like when you were reading this one, there was like these like whiny tones that you implied he was speaking in. I worked all day.
Yes, because that's how I imagine it happening. And I have dated guys who will say shit like this and be like, "But so did I."
Like, wow, you adulted? I cannot believe it. A whole day you went to work. That's incredible.
Oh my God, nobody made you food and rubbed your back? How did you ever survive those 8 hours?
But she says, she's like, this has been going on for 3 weeks. Like, after the first day, I would have been like, he was acting away today. And then the second day, I'd be like, what the fuck is going on? She went 3 weeks. That's a long time to
Shove that
be
shit. Yeah.
tolerating that. Yeah, no kidding. Wow. That's hilarious. And she even probably said it a little bit nicer than I would have. I would have pushed my buttons. Oh boy. Especially because she's also a shift manager at a behavioral disorders facility.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
That
I know
shit
what
is not
that's
just,
like.
that's a different type of training.
Yeah.
It may
No
not be
kidding.
so much like physical exertion, like maybe warehouse work would be, but it is mental and emotional exertion.
Intense.
Well, and you have a 4-year-old who has her own level of dysregulation. That's just a normal
Oh
part
my
of
god.
her development, right?
Yeah.
4-year-olds are easily dysregulated. Maybe she has some additional skills if mom works in a facility. She's picked up on some things, maybe taught her kids some things. But 4-year-olds are moody.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's probably all kinds of attitudes going on in the house. Mom's not having a good time. Can only
So
imagine.
even when mom gets home, mom's not off work. Mom's momming.
Yeah.
And dad's not dadding, it sounds like. He's just another kid, which I hear a lot from like my friends who are married, from my clients who are married. They're like, "I'm just raising another fucking kid."
it's outrageous. Yeah, no kidding. And she held it together for a while. Even
Yeah, 3 weeks is
yeah, and like in her
her
response was
tolerance window is pretty large.
really good distress tolerance. She can handle a lot. And even like when she's like, I'm about to snap, she just got quiet. Where he's like, "Hey, incredible idea, ice cream, have at it." And I commend her self-control here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah, he sounds like a he's feeling himself. I was gonna call him a name, but we'll just be positive. He's feeling himself. Oh God. And that's probably, I mean, when I'm dealing with clients, there's a lot of like, when do I intervene or like talk to this person about that?
Mm.
Do you find that your people have a hard time between like what is like letting something slide versus when it's time to set a boundary?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Mine are mostly happening after the fact. Again, just the population I tend to work with, I get more of the people pleasers.
Mm-hmm.
Their distress tolerance window is a bit bigger, but they do
Mm-hmm.
tend to engage in like exploding doormat behavior. And so I think they struggle with noticing when they're at their breaking point until they actually break and they're like, oh shit, I was at my breaking point.
Yeah, which I
So
think
we're
is
always talking about it
better.
in retrospect versus I think she had some awareness
Mm.
beforehand that if she had maybe reached out sooner, potentially she could have said this in maybe a kinder way or a more effective way. Doesn't sound like he really picked up what she was putting down there.
Yeah, I think once she started cussing, which makes me think, because he was not cussing, which makes me think that she was bottled up a little bit here
Mm-hmm.
on the exploding doormat. So you're with your clients. You're saying like, hey, when did you start becoming aware that you were kind of just stuffing
Irritated,
stuff,
annoyed.
irritated?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's
I
our
say
first
at what
cue.
point?
Yeah. It's like what stopped, and then we go into what stopped us from saying something then.
So
And
do you?
like for her, it's, well, he was excited. I wanted him to feel himself and feel confident about himself.
I think
Like,
it's
okay,
sweet.
that's sweet. But when does his expression of confidence like beat you down? Like, that's problematic. Your
Mm-hmm.
spouse's expression of confidence should not make you feel demeaned and like you're his servant around the house.
Yeah, this is getting to like domineering kind of
Yeah.
thing.
It's like, so maybe a day or
Mm-hmm.
two. And then we need to put our foot down
Mm-hmm.
and say, I'm glad you got this promotion. I'm glad you're feeling yourself. You didn't talk to me before this. I don't care how much money you make. You're not talking to me like this now.
You're like, I will raise my hand to you if you ever speak to me. Yeah, just kind of like get it together, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's feeding his ego at work or something for him to come home that quick after promotion to think that the world has changed. I'm like, who are you speaking to at your job?
Maybe the world at work has changed. And what's interesting is even in like the behavioral health world, the higher up the chain you go, the further from the taxing work you get. Like managers were not sitting with clients several hours a day. They're in meetings figuring out processes and staffing and policies.
Yeah.
I imagine in a warehouse job, it's probably similar. He may still have to do some work, but as an assistant manager, a lot of his stuff is probably more overseeing than like the nitty gritty strenuous stuff he was doing, like entry level up to even like senior team member.
Yeah.
So for him to say, oh, I worked all day and I'm so tired, are you doing more or less hard labor than when you were not in management? Because usually management's not doing the hard labor.
Yeah, like, are you functioning as an operator? Yeah, like, what are you so okay, and I'm not comparing this guy to a Nazi. Also, I've been watching a lot of stuff about Nazis lately because I think that is like so in terms of like professional curiosity. The Holocaust is about as curious as you can get, right? Of all the different experiences that went on there. And
Societal brainwashing.
yeah, and like even like the victims' minds. I mean, it's incredible. And there was I think back to like the Zimbardo prison study of what happens when you give people power, and like there's
Oh
this
my God.
natural power flex on it that like I've seen about that quote that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and I think that that's what this guy's experiencing, where he's giving like a little bit of power. I'm sure his ego is getting fed at work. And I think just as humans, part of like, when animals have power, it's usually held by aggression and some kind of like really intense pecking order. And I think this is this very primal function in our brain that we just get on power trips, and everyone is susceptible to it.
Yes.
And so I think in this post, I think this guy is going on this power trip where he's got a little taste of it. And again, we're all susceptible to getting hijacked like that. He's experiencing like a natural phenomenon, but he's lost some perspective and is like carrying that home in his very patient wife. And she says, I love, and she says, you were literally just out there. Your sense of fucking entitlement is way out of line. Go do shit for yourself. I might have even gotten really picture of like, you are power tripping and you need to get your fucking ego in check. At least I feel like she was specific. I might have like really done an inventory on her character here. Yes, I'd say it's probably awful to argue with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the general phrasing they call them is like withholdings or something like that. When something bothers you and you don't say it. I do struggle with that sometimes because especially if something like maybe hurts my feel or some emotion other than anger, maybe like it makes me stressed or something hurts my feelings, I'll have to sit back and be like, what about that bothered me? And then I'll be like, if it happens 5 or 10 more times, then I'll say something. But it's like, I'm joking. I don't actually think that way. But then like, I'll notice that it's bothering me, but it's like hard to know when to bring it up. Do you have like a rule of thumb that you use or talk to clients about that? Like, you don't want to just like, all the time be like criticizing your partner nonstop, right? Or like, you have to figure out, okay, is this tolerable? Is this just something I need to say at all? It's hard to know.
Yeah. We talked about this in one of the episodes. I can't remember which one. For my clients, maybe it was shame. For my clients, they use therapy as kind of their segue in conversations. If you're not in therapy, I don't necessarily have a rule of thumb for you. Maybe you could just say, I was thinking about this, or, this had been bothering me the past few days, so I was journaling it to try and figure out why it was bothering me. And I just want to share this with you. But I tell my clients all the time to scapegoat me. Like, this had been bothering me. I wasn't sure if it was enough to really bring it up to you. So I talked about it with my therapist. We figured it out. And while it's maybe not a huge deal, she encouraged me to just share with you so that I get into the habit of talking about my feelings and my experiences with you and deepening our connection that way. So we kind of put this positive spin on it. Like, this isn't to criticize you. I'm just sharing my experience in a hope that this deepens our connection and strengthens our relationship.
So you have to do a big, hey, there was something that I really needed to talk to you about. Almost like how we talked about in difficult conversations of like setting the stage, like you're about to have a really heavy thing, or do you think it's better to keep it lighter?
I think it probably depends on what it is.
That's fair.
And how often. This seems fairly big. This has been happening for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So this one, you might need to make sure he's in a good spot. I paused because as I was saying that, I'm not sure he would ever be in a good spot, because on his days off, he wants to just dissociate. On the days he does work, he just wants to be pampered and taken care of. So for him, he's going to need to sacrifice time on one of these days and suck it up and have an uncomfortable conversation. But if it's something kind of minor and we're trying to nip it in the butt really quickly, I think just saying, hey, this isn't a huge deal, but I was talking about it in therapy, or I journaled about this, and I'd like to just share my experience and what came up for me with you.
I like that. So the author, maybe if she's 3 weeks in, she has that exploding doormat moment where she pops off because straw broke the camel's back. So if she'd been a client, would say, okay, we need to start doing an autopsy of when you first notice that you're getting irritable. And so then she could have, maybe a weekend, she could have said, hey, I noticed that there's been some changes since you got this new thing at work. You've been feeling different at home. It's been making me feel uncomfortable and taken advantage of. I would appreciate it if you'd be more cognizant of that. Just kind of checked in on that before she stuffed it down.
Yep. Because then she can also say that way nicer than how she ended up saying it, where she's saying, I did hear you, go make it yourself. Your sense of fucking entitlement is way out of line. Do shit for yourself. Again, this is very you language, very blaming, accusatory. And he did get defensive.
But I worked all fucking day. He like matched back with the
no, the fuck did I?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
now we're just keeping score basically of who's doing more, is what I'm seeing.
yeah, the scorekeeping.
So she's keeping score. He's assuming whatever he does is valued more than hers, because obviously she's
Mhm.
working longer shifts, but she's still expected to make his favorite meals and be a short order cook and take care of the kid, clean the house, I imagine,
Yeah.
give massages.
And I have some clients who are similar to the husband. They are personally challenging for me to work with sometimes. I have some conversations where that comes up. Where I'm like, oh, your wife must really, must be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked, we pulled this to talk about like entitlement. We're talking about thought errors back in season one. We figured out entitlement's one of the ones that irks you the most. What do you think it is about entitlement that rubs you the wrong way like that?
One, I'm like really shocked that you would even remember that.
Because I'm like, I've been waiting. I'm like, I'm curious what's going on with this entitlement.
I honestly don't know. Maybe it's because I had to work for everything and I did have
Hmm.
friends where things were just kind of given to them and
Yeah.
they didn't have a lot of responsibility or earning of things. Whereas I grew up in a single income household. And so if I got something, it was this is all you're getting. If you lose this or break this, that's it. A lot of sharing with my sister. And so it's like sometimes you don't want to share, and sometimes they feel they're entitled to your things because we're supposed to be sharing.
Oh, yeah. So you like can't protect your own stuff either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So potentially that's where this irritation developed in childhood, like most things.
It feels like some kind of unfairness is what I'm hearing overall.
Yeah.
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 Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Good one.
It does irk me. I'm like, fucking assholes.
I mean, definitely. I don't think like American culture. I don't think we appreciate like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. We don't like I don't know douchey trust fund babies, but I think we view it as like weakness or something. If somebody's just given a bunch of stuff, I think there's like a grit to it that we
Mm-hmm.
respect. But I mean, I think we value money over everything, though. So probably doesn't matter where you get it from. Capitalism just likes it for green. That's all it cares about.
Very true. I was thinking that. I was like, they still
Yeah.
get places they want to be because they have the money to do it.
Yeah, there's no shorting of opportunities, I'm
Yeah.
imagining.
I think maybe like the appreciation piece is probably a lot different. I think
Hmm.
when you get to where you're going and you had to work for it, the view from the top looks very different if you like had to climb the mountain versus somebody just dropped you at the top of the mountain so you could see the view.
Oh, yes, there's this level of like they don't respect or like there's no like gratitude for what they have.
Potentially, that's not to say everybody's like that, but I think there's definitely that risk when people are just given things or
When you're entitled to something, yeah, it implies
yeah.
that like I don't have to earn it. It should just be given to me.
Mm-hmm. A lot of assumptions are made with that as well. So
Mm,
I think it's
yeah.
maybe where that breakdown is for me. I think a lot of time with entitlement, people
Ugh,
just assume it's their right versus this is a privilege.
yeah. Wait, so do you think who you think is the asshole in this one? We didn't even talk about that
Oh,
yet.
yeah. Honestly, like most cases, I think they're both assholes.
Mm,
I don't know why, but it's hard for me to just let people off the hook. Husband is obviously the asshole. He got too big for his britches. And
mhm.
he's also doing, it's interesting, he's understanding the wife's perspective and then projecting that back onto her. So when he's saying,
Yeah,
um, he's
I
now
told.
saying that he is not acting entitled, that I was just taking my bad day out on him, and everything I said makes him feel unappreciated. She's feeling unappreciated. He's picking up on the emotion. But instead of
Yeah.
acknowledging that your wife is feeling this way, you're weaponizing it and saying, I feel so unappreciated because you won't go make me ice cream, even though I was just in the kitchen and I'm fully capable of making my own bowl of ice cream.
Do not do for them what they can do for themselves. Mm-mm.
So I do think he is an asshole. He's completely unaware, apparently, that he's doing any of this, which I find hard to believe. I think he does have some awareness. You don't have a complete personality change without some intent.
Yeah, and like the entitlement so quickly switched over to victim, which is so interesting. It's like those
Hmm.
polar ends of like pride, isn't it? It's bizarre.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I
Oh.
agree.
So yeah, he's an asshole. I think he is unappreciative. He's also expecting everybody else to now magically cater to him, including the 4
Yeah.
year old. So everybody's kind of walking on eggshells now at home, where your
Hmm.
daughter can't play in a room that she used to be able to play in. I get it. If you have like a playroom, you keep your toys in the playroom. Playroom can look a hot mess. The rest of the house is going to look somewhat put together. That does not seem to be the case with this family. She was allowed to play in whatever room, and all of a sudden, it's basically like, there's your jail cell. Go play in your room. If you want to sit out here, you have to be quiet and can't make any noise. And we're watching what I want to watch.
Tyrannical.
Yeah, I think those are probably my biggest. Those were
Mm.
big ones. But
And then you would say the wife is an asshole because she waited too long to say something and then kind of popped off.
yeah, she let her resentment build.
Yeah.
And so that is the risk when we stuff, especially if it's within the dynamic of our relationships. We are going to become resentful of the other person. And at some point, it's not going to end well, just like it didn't here.
Yeah. But she
It,
like cold shouldered him, like ignored him almost even, and then before she
mm-hmm,
blew up.
yeah. So I think even if this was a week or two prior, if she let this go on maybe a week and then he's coming in and saying, hey, can you go make me a bowl of ice cream? She may have been able to come at that from a different perspective, maybe more of curiosity. I'm curious what stops you from making your bowl of ice cream when you were just in the kitchen.
I'm curious why you think that you're entitled that I should make you a bowl of ice cream.
And he'd
So
say, oh,
curious.
well, I just thought of it when I lay down.
Mm.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that, but I'm not going to make your ice cream because you were just in there and you're
Mm-hmm.
capable of making ice cream and I'm in bed relaxing. And so if
Mm-hmm.
even if his response stays the same, well, I've worked all day. I totally understand that. You worked 8 hours. That must have been hard for you. I worked 12 hours. Then I picked our kid up from school. Then I brought her home and I had to make her dinner and I made your dinner. Then I had to clean the kitchen. Then I had to pack her lunch for the next day and I had to set her clothes out and I had to get her bathed and I put her to bed. You got to really decompress from your 8 hour shift while I was still technically on the clock. So now I'm in bed and I'm
Mm-hmm.
clocked out. You want something, you need to do it yourself.
I feel like I would almost be. I mean, this would be after I'd thought about it. It'd be something like, it hurts my feelings that you would think that there's enough time that you could spend at work that would entitle you to take advantage of me. That bothers me.
Ooh.
I mean, so that's like maybe that's like higher level, but that's really what it is here. That like, oh, if I suffer enough, then you're entitled that you do whatever I want. Like that would bother me that my spouse would think about me like that.
Mm-hmm. Or
Yeah.
that somehow your day at work superseded my day at work.
Yeah, even if I was off and you worked 14 hours, doesn't mean that you're entitled that I bring you ice cream in bed. Like, how is that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we talking about here? There's some kind of
Yeah.
equitable thing where you can take advantage of somebody if you work long enough. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I think there could also be a really assertive way to address the power differential and the one
Mm,
directionality of the relationship now, where,
yeah.
she asks for a massage and he's like, no, I worked all day. But even if she worked all day, she's expected to give him a massage. And
Mm-hmm.
so now all of a sudden the relationship is focused on getting his needs met, and that's all that's important. And so I think there could be space to where, I don't know if this is a coincidence, but I have noticed since your promotion, the relationship has been about you getting your needs met.
Mm-hmm.
Your massage, your favorite dinner, your ice cream, even though you were just in the kitchen. You're not taking care of me anymore. You're not asking how my day was. You're not giving me a massage. You're not helping put the kid down to bed.
Yeah. I think that can be really hard too. I deal, with couples who've been married for a while. So I think it's difficult. I think at some point in the relationship, it's easy to focus on what needs are not being met. So all the ways that the other person is not meeting needs, and it can be hard to continue to be loving when you are keeping track of ways that you are feeling unloved,
Mm-hmm.
and to because it come people go through seasons, right? So some one partner might be more focused on generosity than the other person at any given time. But I think this can be a confusing thing like that because it can feel like, oh, well, I'm not going to go get your ice cream until you make me feel loved, which would be
Mm,
like, I'm not going to love you until you love me. And it can kind of become this like power struggle too,
transactional. Yeah.
of like withholding affection because we don't feel affectionate. And that can be a hard cycle to be in also. But yeah, this is what like contempt looks like, I think.
Mm. Well, and I think if we can address it early on,
Exactly.
we're more so just noticing and communicating the lack of needs being met versus keeping tally. If she lets this continue to go on, she is scorekeeping
Yeah.
with that. And so I think that is another risk of staying silent. You're just going to
Working.
keep building all of these resentments, and eventually it's going to be a lot. The relationship can be repaired, but it's going to be a lot harder to repair than if you had said this, a few days in or a week in and said, I kind of let you be on your high horse for a week because I could tell you were really proud of yourself, and I am too. This is a big accomplishment. I'm proud of you.
And I'm here to
And
shoot the horse. Get off.
yeah, like you didn't get a promotion at home. You're not like
Nor
we're
would you based on your performance. Very poor.
poor little man in his ego. He'd be like, I'm doing bad in bed.
I feel really appreciated right now that you didn't promote me at home.
Right. But like we're still a team. There's no promotion to be had.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we move up, we're moving up as a unit. If we move down, we're moving down as a unit. So your
Yeah.
promotion at work is great, but that can't change how you function in our relationship. That's just not going to work. We're not going to succeed.
But you're like, this is not going to work for me. I don't like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Like what happens at work should not impact what's happening in our relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good and bad. This was a good change at work. It's had a negative effect at home.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'm sure he's probably embarrassed. He's coming to the bed all happy thinking about chocolate drizzles and cashews, and she kind of jumps on him, and it sounds like maybe he's feeling a little bit, yeah, embarrassed of like, gosh, I just feel unappreciated. I was just trying to ask you for cashews. But yeah, I think that he was not really, I forgot who he was there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say this, and I don't know if we've mentioned this in other episodes, but I know I talk about it with my clients a lot, especially in relationship dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
the power of a thank you.
Mm.
I think even saying thank you, I really appreciate that.
Goes a long way.
Yeah, it shows that you are aware that they are doing something maybe extra for you. Right? If she's
Acknowledgement.
going to get him ice cream every night and he's not even saying thank you, or he's saying you forgot the cashews, she's like,
Ooh.
go get the cashews then. Like,
The boy. Yeah.
versus if he's saying, thanks, I know you were laying in bed and you were relaxing, but I really like the way you make it. And it makes me feel loved when you bring me ice cream in bed.
I'd be like, all right, fine, I'll make you ice cream. That would work on me for sure.
That would work on me maybe 50% of the time. Be like, I'll keep that in mind, but tonight it's a no.
Because then it's like being like you're meeting an emotional need. Like it's the action of ice cream, which who doesn't like ice cream, right? But then it's also being like I feel cared for by the act of service. So somebody was able to frame it more of it's not just that I want to eat ice cream, but that I feel loved when you make it for me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which may be what's going on. We don't necessarily know. I think this is more than just ice cream. It's a lot of different things that are just kind of building up.
yeah, some secondary benefits that he's asking for that and that too.
So,
what are the thoughts you got on this one?
I think that's it. Don't be entitled, guys.
Don't
Say
be
thank you.
entitled. Yeah.
Figure out what's a right and what's a privilege.
Mm-hmm. Live in gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Be aware of power flexes and power shifts.
Yeah.
Check yourself.
Before you wreck yourself.
Mm-hmm. We didn't do a whole lot of like psycho ed or whatever. I guess not a whole lot to summarize here, huh? We just kind of hit our
high
points there.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Sounds good. All right, guys, that's what we have for you on this one. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Send them to us. assertivepodcast@gmail.com is our email, or find us on Instagram @assertivepodcast. Until next time.